Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great week. I'm Karen Doyle, Operations Director of CTAM Europe. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'm pleased to introduce Simon Murray, who you may recognise from past CTAM Europe webinars. Simon is Principal Analyst at Digital TV Research based in the UK. Today we'll find out what Simon has to say about what happens next on the global SVOD platform scene. We're due to last around 25 to 30 minutes today, with time for questions at the end. Please use your Q&A button to post your questions. As always, the recording of this presentation will be posted on the members only section of ctameurope.com. And if you're not a current member, we'd love you to join us. So please email info@ctameurope.com for details on how to sign up. Members have access to 2 webinars a month, an annual symposium, along with webinars and monthly podcasts from our colleagues at CTAM US. Our flagship program is the fantastic week-long executive management program at INSEAD, which is taking place live at INSEAD last month. After 2 long COVID years, we're excited to finally be able to go to INSEAD in person again with a fantastic class. I'll follow up with details on the programme by email on the next day or so, and your details will be shared with Simon at Digital TV Research, who may in turn follow up with you. So with all that said, I'll take myself off screen now and turn the stage over to Simon. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Just to warn everyone, Karen and I were having a bit of a practice earlier, and she said there were a few problems with my audio. So she might step in at some point and tell me to turn my video off, which you'll probably enjoy. Anyway, this presentation contains forecasts on how we think SVOD platforms are going to grow around the world. There's been a lot going on recently. These figures are based on the December results for most of the companies. I was very pleased with myself this time yesterday because I'd done the presentation over the weekend and I practiced it. I was very happy with it. I knew the Viacom results were happening last night, but I didn't realize what an impact they would have. So some of the figures that we have in this presentation won't be published by us. They're preliminary figures, and we will change them to incorporate what Paramount, or I should say Viacom CBS, said yesterday as far as its growth plans are concerned. So very, very preliminary. These figures weren't published, but it's give you an idea of what's happening. And as you can tell from what I just said, there's a lot happening, and there's a lot happening on a daily basis. So it's quite entertaining keeping up with it all. The forecasts cover 138 countries, and they only cover TV series and movies. So we don't cover sports, for example. So let's press on. Okay, here's a comparison of the SVOD market against the traditional pay TV market. And on the left-hand side, you have the number of subscribers, and on the right-hand side, the revenues. So an SVOD subscriber is a home that pays for at least one SVOD subscription, and pay TV obviously speaks for itself. So as you can see from the left-hand side, the number of SVOD subscribers around the world is still quite a lot lower than the number of pay TV subscribers. And even by 2027, the number of SVOD subscribers will be quite a lot lower than traditional pay TV. In fact, the number of pay TV homes will actually increase over the next few years. You might find that a bit strange to hear, considering how much cord cutting is taking place in the US, for example, and even in China. But most of the growth in the pay TV market will come from emerging markets that have never had pay TV before in those homes. On the revenue side of things, it's even more interesting. 2021 SVOD revenues were quite a lot lower than pay TV revenues, but as you can see in 2027, we think that they will be pretty equal with pay TV revenues. So pay TV revenues will fall, but SVOD revenues will increase quite rapidly. Now, you might think it's a bit strange that pay TV revenues will fall when subscriber numbers are increasing, but what's happening is people are actually paying less to receive pay TV signals than they have done in the past, mainly because a lot of the subscribers now will be in emerging markets that pay less. Okay, having a look at the global SVOD world, we make the distinction between net SVOD subscribers. As I said before, an SVOD subscriber is a home that pays for at least one SVOD subscription, and the gross number is the total number of subscriptions added up together. So by 2027, there'll be 1.7 billion SVOD subscriptions around the world. That's up by 500 million on 2021. And the average number of subscriptions per SVOD subscriber will reach 2.31 by 2027. That's up from just under 2 in 2021. Now, that might not look very interesting on its own, but that's the sort of ratio where 0.1 can make quite a lot of difference. There are a lot of positives going on in the industry at the moment. I mean, we've heard a bit of negative thought, which I will touch on later, but there's a lot of positives to be had. For example, 3 major players haven't completed their global rollouts now. I'm talking about Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Paramount Plus. These services still have a lot of international rollouts to happen, and they will still be a lot of growth to be had there. Last year, we saw a lot of interest and a lot of activity in the Latin American market, where all of these platforms launched. This year, it's going to be Eastern Europe, where a lot of these platforms will launch, and of course, a bit of Western Europe as well. So there's still a lot of positive things to be had in the SVOD marketplace. Okay, as you can see, these are the number of subscriptions by region. If you look at the pie chart, you'll see that 3 countries will represent 57% of the global total by 2027. Those 3 countries, the US, China, and India, will collectively have nearly 1 billion subscribers. The fastest growing region as far as subscriptions is concerned is the Asia Pacific region, which will add more than 200 million subscribers. This comes despite the fact that there's been a clampdown in China. The government has clamped down on what it calls fan-based culture. As far as SVOD is concerned, that hits reality programs pretty hard, and quite a few productions of reality programs have ceased since the order was introduced last year. This will hit SVOD subscriptions in China because there'll be less new content coming on stream, and the reality shows are actually very popular there. India has seen a lot of growth and will see a lot of growth in the next few years. But what we're seeing is Indian subscribers pay very, very little for their subscriptions. So some Wall Street analysts have questioned the value of Indian subscribers. More on that later. In the US, quite a lot of people reported recently that the US market is at saturation point. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that there's still a lot of growth to be had in the US. Admittedly, some of the more established players, such as Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, won't grow much in the next few years. But remember, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, and HBO Max are still fairly new services, even in the US. So there are plenty of subscribers to be added there. In fact, we think there'll be more than 100 additions in the US by 2027. However, the market is maturing, and the annual number of additions is going to decrease quite rapidly. So last year, there were 154 million additions around the world as far as subscriptions are concerned. And by 2027, the additions will only be 55 million. So quite a steep decline there, nearly 100 million lower by 2027. But you'll notice that Latin America and North America are maturing as far as the end years are concerned, but there's still a lot of growth to be had in Asia Pacific and even the EMEA region over the next few years. And in money terms, globally, we think that S4 will bring in $146 billion by 2027. That's up from only 89 billion in 2021. From the additions, North America will bring in 23 billion of that total. Just looking at the pie chart there, 2 countries will control half of the world's SVOD revenues by 2027. And you'll notice as well, India, despite having a lot of subscribers, does not appear in the top countries as far as SVOD revenues are concerned. Indian SVOD revenues will only reach about $2 billion by 2027. Australia, which has a much smaller population, will generate more in revenue terms than India. And I think this is going to be something that people talk more and more about. I think people will talk about less and less about subscriber acquisitions and subscriber additions in the future, and it'll be more about ARPUs and more about revenue growth and more about customer retention. And obviously customer retention will be very important in some of the more mature markets and some of the more crowded markets. We'll take a look at the these results were announced by Disney fairly recently. I think it's probably true of a lot of the other platforms as well. It's not just Disney. So if you look at these figures, you'll see the grey line at the bottom is the average ARPU figure for Disney Plus Hotstar. Now, Disney Plus Hotstar is available in India and some of the Southeast Asian countries with 46 million subscribers at the end of last year. That's 35% of total Disney Plus subscribers were in the Hotstar countries last year, at the end of last year. Remembering its total was 130 million, so 46 million of those homes were in the Hotstar countries. And you'll notice that the average Hotstar subscriber only generated an ARPU of just over $1 in the quarter to December at the end of last year, whereas subscribers in the US and Canada were generating more than 6 times that amount. So they're much more valuable to have a subscriber from the US and Canada than in the Hotstar countries. Okay, this is where we go a bit off the grid here, because our forecasts for Paramount Plus were before the announcement last night, and as you can see, our figures for Paramount Plus are quite low in comparison to the reality. The actuals announced last night were 33 million subscribers for Paramount Plus at the end of last year, so we were less than half of that. And Viacom wants Paramount Plus to have 100 million subscribers by 2024. That's Paramount Plus and Showtime SVOD platform. So yeah, been out on the Paramount Plus side of things. Didn't foresee the sharp growth that the company enjoyed in the last half of last year. Viacom CBS announced figures that hadn't announced before, so yes, we're going to have to change those figures. And Paramount Plus, as I said, is after 100 million subscribers by 2024. Paramount Plus and Showtime in the US, but 100 million worldwide. Sorry, I should say. So if you look at the pie chart on the other side of the chart, you'll see that Netflix, Disney, and Amazon are all pretty close. You'll see that Disney is just behind Netflix in subscriber terms. It will add much more in terms of subscribers than Netflix, and Netflix will add 60 million despite its maturity, but Disney Plus will add nearly 150 million more than that. We have said in the past that Disney Plus would overtake Netflix in 2027, but we now think it's going to be 2028. We slightly lowered our forecasts for India and the US. India because of the price wars taking place, and in the US because of the intense competition taking place. Now, on the pie chart, you'll see the others column, the others section, I should say, is 722 million subscribers. About half of those will be in China. China is not going to let any foreign companies come in as standalone SVOD platforms. So half of the other section are in China. And again, look at the additions, but this time from the platform point of view, you'll see that Netflix and Amazon Prime Video are fairly mature and won't add that much in the next few years. Most of their additions will be in emerging markets, or in the case of Amazon Prime Video, where Amazon Prime launches, Amazon Prime Video is available for free, so that gives it a boost. As I said earlier, most of these platforms have started already in Latin America. In fact, all of them have, and they will be starting in Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe's been fairly slow to take on SVOD subscriptions in the last few years, but we think that Eastern Europe will be a battleground next year, moving on to the Asia Pacific region in 2023. So Disney's going to launch in more than 50 countries this year, and it says it's going to launch in a further 60 countries in 2023. HBO Max will launch in Eastern Europe in 2022. Asia, probably France and the Netherlands in 2023. Paramount Plus is launching Sky Showtime as a joint venture with NBC Universal this year in 22 European countries, most of which are in Eastern Europe. And Paramount Plus will launch in the 5 Sky countries in Western Europe during 2022. Okay, again, on the revenue side of things, a bit skewed because of the Paramount figures that we'll have to revise. Looking at the pie chart, you'll see the others. From that others, China will represent $13 billion. So if you added China as a platform, there wouldn't be much less for the others by 2027. And in fact, most of the others, apart from China, will be in the US. Most of the revenues there will be in the US. And we've heard recently that a lot of these platforms are promising great content spend over the next few years, but they're going to have to match that up eventually with the revenues that they're taking. And you'll notice that Netflix is the revenue leader by quite some distance and will remain so. Disney will be in second place, but quite a long way behind. Yeah, these platforms will have to justify their content spend with new subscribers, and there may be some rationalization of content spend in the next few years. Okay, let's look at Netflix. Well, most mature SVOD market, SVOD platform in the world. However, we think it's going to add 60 million more subscribers over the next few years to reach 282 by 2027. Most of that growth will be in the Asia Pacific and EMEA regions. If you look at the pie chart, you can see that 7 countries will have more than 10 million Netflix subscribers by 2027. Netflix spends big on content, as we know. The reports are $18 billion this year. Much of that will be on local original productions, because the Netflix realized the importance of local programming to garner subscribers in each country, although some foreign language programs such as Squid Game have fared very well in international markets. These figures are from Netflix, and this is a tale of its growth. If you look at the blue line, you'll see that the growth in subscribers in 2021 was half as much as in 2020. Obviously, 2020 was aided by the COVID lockdowns, but it's still quite telling the slowdown in 2021. What has also alarmed Wall Street analysts is the fact that Netflix itself said that it would only add 2.5 million subscribers in the first quarter of this year. That would be the lowest additions it's had in the first quarter of any year for quite some time. Disney Plus, 276 million subscribers by 2027. And from the 146 editions, half of them will be in the Asia Pacific region. As I said earlier, it will roll out to 50 countries this year, mostly in Eastern Europe and the Middle East, and 60 next year, when we think that'll be the emerging Asia Pacific markets included in that. So the Star block work very well for in the developed markets. Star is a more is programming more suited to people in their 20s and 30s rather than Disney's traditional programming, which is for younger viewers than that, people who are still at school. However, we think there's a bit of a gap here for Disney Plus because it is appealing. Disney Plus itself appeals to people under, say, their mid-teens, and the Star block appeals to people in their 20s and 30s, but there's not much to appeal to people in their 40s who want to watch more adult programming. And that's the sort of that's the market served by Hulu in the States. Disney hasn't quite launched anything to cover that market as far as we're concerned anyway, in its international markets. Okay, the US and India will dominate subscriber numbers by 2027. As I say, we've lowered our forecast for India because of the price wars taking place there, and also in the US because of the intense competition taking place there. But it will still, those two countries will still contribute half of Disney Plus's total. By 2027, we think that Disney Hotstar will be in 13 Asian markets and will contribute 106 million subscribers by 2027. That's from the total of 276 million subscribers. So it's quite a fair chunk of Disney Plus subscribers will be in the Hotstar countries, and they will not be paying much as far as ARPUs are concerned. So these figures are from Disney itself. We can see that Hotstar is available in 46 million homes, or it's taken by 46 million homes in the mostly in India and Southeast Asia. Pretty fast growth there. A lot of that's down to screening Indian Premier League cricket, which is very popular over there. The US and Canada are fairly mature as well, slowing down in their growth forecast there. It's the international markets, excluding Hotstar, that are really interesting, because most of the launches in 2022 will be in the international markets outside the Hotstar countries. So that's where we're going to see quite a lot of growth, I think, this year. Okay, looking at HBO Max, we are forecasting 87 million subscribers by 2027. The HBO Max is already available in the US, in Latin America, some Western European countries. It's going to launch, as I said earlier, in Eastern Europe this year, probably in Asian countries in 2023. However, there are still going to be some countries where it can't launch, and the most cited example is Sky, in the 5 Sky countries in Europe, because HBO has an exclusive deal with Sky that doesn't expire until the end of 2025. And these are very lucrative markets potentially for HBO Max. We think, however, there might be some agreement between HBO and Sky so that a joint venture platform is launched, perhaps with the Now or the Sky Ticket platform as an add-on to those platforms, because HBO has hinted that it wants to launch in these countries. That speculation is ours. It's nothing we've heard from HBO itself, so it's purely our estimates of what we think is going to happen. Now, HBO has an interesting growth pattern. It actually increased, it's doubled the number of direct subscribers that HBO Max had in the US to nearly 14 million at the end of last year. However, there are another 29 million homes in the US that take the HBO pay TV channel, but they don't actually subscribe directly to HBO Max. They can access it, and quite a lot of them do, but they don't pay directly for it. Now, this is the challenge that HBO has, I think, not only in the States, because HBO has pay TV interests in Latin America, Eastern Europe, and Asia. The challenge is converting subscribers from its pay TV platform to its SVOD platform without upsetting the pay TV operators that carry those platforms and without losing their lucrative carriage fees. This is HBO is not the only company or platform to have this dilemma. Okay, don't look at the numbers, they're all wrong. We're going to have to change this completely. As I said last night, Viacom CBS announced that they hope for 100 million Paramount Plus and Showtime subscribers by 2024, and their previous estimate was 65 to 75 million by then. They're now saying that's going to happen now. They nearly tripled the number of Paramount Plus subscribers last year to 33 million. This is despite the fact it's only available, or was only available, in the US, Canada, Latin America, the Nordic countries, Russia, and Australia. And there are many launches to be had this year. As I mentioned before, Sky Showtime with NBC Universal in 22 European countries this year. And also Paramount Plus will launch on Sky in 5 countries later on this year too. It was a very good announcement, I think, from Paramount Plus. I mean, the financials worried a few of the analysts around in the Wall Street area, but as far as growth is concerned, I think it's one of a very commendable presentation. One thing I really liked about it as well was the fact that they're going to combine Showtime content into the Paramount Plus platform and offer it for $12 a month with ads and $15 a month without ads. And I think that will boost its fortunes quite considerably in the States, because that's quite a good price for the content that you'll get there. Okay. Amazon Prime Video is a bit different because we have included a lot of subscribers, and we're expecting 256 million by 2027. That's more than 69 more. Most of those subscribers will be in Amazon Prime countries, and they receive Amazon Prime Video for free. So if you're in one of the 25 Amazon Prime countries, you're unlikely to buy Amazon Prime Video without and ignoring Amazon Prime. So we're assuming in the Amazon Prime 25 countries that 70% of Amazon Prime subscribers watch Amazon Prime Video, and we've included them as subscribers, even though they're not revenue generators as such. So that means only 25 million of their 256 million by 27 will actually be directly paying for it in countries outside Amazon Prime. And the reason why that is interesting, of course, is because there aren't that many revenue generating units for Amazon Prime Video. It's purely to enhance customer loyalty in a lot of cases, especially in the Prime countries. And so it might make Amazon question how much it's spending on content if it can't see a net benefit to the whole thing. Okay, that's my presentation. Thank you very much for your time. I'll try and answer any question. Are there any questions there, Karen?
There are indeed. Thank you. That was really interesting. Great figures, apart from the Paramount, but you know, they others were great.
Don't talk about Paramount.
And your audio was fabulous. Maybe it was mine earlier. Oh, okay. Right, we've got 2 good ones here. Hello, Simon. When you look at Latin America, they seem to be lagging. Do any strategies come to mind that might be able to accelerate SVOD adoption in that region? What are the specific factors that are responsible for this slow adoption rate versus other regions?
Well, I don't think there is a slow adoption in Latin America, and Latin America has been that sort of test bed for a lot of international launches, going way back. I mean, Netflix is one of its first international markets was the Latin American region, and it had to overcome some of the problems that it didn't face necessarily in North America. For example, low credit card ownership in Latin America was a problem for Netflix to start off with. This is before that it had any relationships with pay TV operators, for example. So it had to take the payments itself. And the way they got around that was prepaid cards. So most of the international players that I've mentioned in this presentation are available in Latin America, and they have been available in Latin America before a lot of the other international markets. I mean, obviously there have been well-documented economic problems in quite a few of the Latin American countries, which hasn't stunted growth, but it's slowed it slightly. So hopefully when those problems are over, we'll see a resurgence of subscriber growth in the region.
Yeah. And another one here, who comes under the non-China half of others in global SVOD subscriptions, contributing to half of 722 million subscribers?
Okay. That's quite a long list. I mean, yeah, I mean, China is interesting because it doesn't let foreigners in, so you have to partner with a local player. Russia is less strict, but pretty much the same sort of thing as well. There aren't many huge international players. There aren't many other players who are in a lot of other countries. Showmax in Africa is one good example of that contradicts that. Also, going back to Latin America, there's the Claro Video, for example, that picks up subscribers. And there are local services that in some countries do quite well. Others don't do so well. It's quite hard to compete against the global players when you're a local player with a limited budget.
Mm-hmm. And this is the last one here. This is a follow-up to the Latin America question. Perhaps, but their cumulative ads don't slow down through your figures leading up to 2027. The other regions do slow down as they become more mature. This would indicate to me that Latin America is less mature. Is that correct?
Well, it's not as mature as North America, but and it's not as big as Asia, for example. So the actual numbers won't be as high as the Asian numbers. No, I don't think it does lag behind. I think it's a vibrant market despite the economic conditions in some of the countries, and I think it's quite a lively market, and SVOD is doing pretty well.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Simon. That was really, really good. If anybody has got any further questions, Simon's email address is on there, and I will follow up with the information on the INSEAD program, and I'll CC Simon in there as well. So you've all got his details. And when I was thinking then about HBO Max, we did a really great, our annual symposium, and there was a fabulous keynote with Christina Sulabak, who is HBO Max EMEA General Manager. So if anybody wants to have a recording of that as well, Kate Bulkley did a really good interview with her. So I can email, if anybody wants to email info@ctameurope.com, I can send a copy of that as well. So thanks, Simon. Fabulous as ever. Hopefully we'll see you again later on in the year.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.